For this assignment, you're going to create 3 different mastheads. We're going to call it Make Your Own, or Make Your Site Your Own. This is what you're going to call it. First thing you're going to do, though, is you're going to create a folder. You can highlight this text right here and copy it by doing Command-C. Go to your Google Drive, 7th or 8th grade. Go into your Multimedia Design folder and create a new folder. Paste that in there and then change this information. Remember to put your first initial and last name, an underscore, and what period number you have. Site graphics. So site graphics, this is also called a masthead. There are 3 files in here, 1920 by 520, 1920 by 1000, and 1920 by 350. These are 3 different sizes. If you notice, they all start with 1920. That's the width. So I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to download it by opening it in a new window, downloading it, and then when I go over here, select Show in Finder, hold the Control key down, click one time on it, and select Open with Adobe Photoshop. As it's opening that file, I'm going to do the same thing for the other files on that Google Classroom. So I'm going to click back here, open up this one, open a new window, and download it. Go over here, Show in Finder. It's putting it in the Downloads folder, so we know where to keep things and also where to delete things that are downloaded. Control, Open with Adobe Photoshop. Then just repeat that process. Now watch what I do here. I'm holding my thumb on the Command key, and I'm going to tap the Tab key because I'm currently in Photoshop, but I want to be in Google Classroom. A lot of what you all are doing is you're making your windows small like this so that you can see both windows. The better way to do that is to go full screen on Photoshop, hold the Command key down, and tap the Tab key until I get back to Google Chrome. Then I can close this window, go to Google Classroom, click this back arrow, this is the Google Classroom tab, and then select the third one. Again, go to these 3 dots, which is the Options window, open it in a new window, click the download. Go over here to where it is, select Show in Finder, hold the Control key down, open with Adobe Photoshop. We've been doing this for about 8 months now, so this should all be familiar to you. Now what you're going to do is, if you'll notice, there are 3 different sizes on your monitor. This is the biggest one. I'm going to move it over here by clicking and dragging this tab to the left. This is the largest one. It's 1,000 pixels wide. This one is 520 pixels wide, and this one is 1,000 tall, 520 tall, and 350 tall. So very simply, I'm going to hold the Command key down and tap the Tab key to get back over here. Close this window, click on the tab for Google Classroom, click the back arrow, and then I'm going to go down to a previous assignment because it's not listed in here, but if you go into one of the previous assignments, or even the current Merge Buddy assignment, there's a link in here for backgrounds. Backgrounds are different than the type of art we've been putting in our headlines or our mastheads because these are what's called royalty-free. So we can download and use one of these as our background for our website. I'm going to choose this one because I like the colors in it. I'm going to preview it. Then again, I'm going to hold the Control key down, click one time on it, and select Open in New Window. Open link in new window. So this is the actual image. Notice that when I click on it, you can see the magnifying glass, it enlarges it. So this is the actual size of the image. So once again, I'm going to hold the Control key down, click on it, and select Save Image As. This time I can put it on the desktop. I can also put it in the Downloads folder if that's easier for you, but I think putting it on the desktop is the best way. Click Save. You can again go here and select Show in Finder, but it's also on the desktop. Here's where the image is on the desktop. I'm going to Control click on it and select Open with Adobe Photoshop. This image is massive. If you go to Image and Image Size, it will tell you how big it is. 2,000 pixels wide by 1,414 pixels high, which is way bigger than any of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything on the screen by holding the Command key down and tapping the letter A and copying this. Then I'm going to go to my largest image here, my largest background image, or largest masthead, excuse me, and paste it by doing Command V. Just so that you can see how much bigger that image that just came in here is than the actual area that we're manipulating. I'm going to do Command minus to reduce it, and then I'm going to hold the Command key down and tap the letter T, which will show me how big this image is. This allows me to move it around. The width is actually pretty close to my width. So I'm just going to select an area that I think is okay for our purposes. Then to save this, I want to save it the way that I asked you to save it in Google Classroom. So I'm going to hold the Command key down and tap the Tab key again until I get back to Google Chrome. Close this window, close this window, go back to the current assignment that we're working on, which is to make your site your own. And this is what I want you to call it. The largest header is going to be 01, header 1, underscore first initial last name, underscore p number, dot psd. So I'm going to copy that, Command C. This has my layers in it, so I know that this is the one, and you can actually see up here how it's labeled up here. I'm going to do File, Save As, paste in this name. Notice how it did the PSD because I had the PSD selected twice. So make sure to delete that second PSD, put the period number. And this is the first of 3 headers that we're going to do. So all I'm going to do here is change the name, first initial last name. Instead of having it in the Downloads folder, I want to put it on the desktop so it's easy to find. And click Save. And OK. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my name in here. I'm going to select the text tool. If you notice the color down here, this is the color of the text, but it also showed up here. Notice how these two are different. This is the front color in Photoshop, but this is actually the text color here. This box changes, or this menu changes when I selected the text tool. Watch what happens up here when I click here. See how the menu changed? So the menu is based on what tool you have selected. I'm going to click on the Type tool, and I'm just going to leave it white for now because this background is actually pretty dark. I'm going to click one time and type my name. Notice how you still can't see it very well. If I click on the Selection tool and then hit Command T, that's for transform, hold the Shift key down and make this really large. Make sure to hold the Shift key down when you do any sort of enlargement. I'm going to apply this. I just clicked another tool, so I'm going to apply this. And then I'm going to select the text and change the font. You can go to Type. And where is it? Command T. When you have Type selected, Command T brings up your Type menu. You can see what they're going to look like. There's a little bit of a preview here on the right. find something that's big and bold. That one's obviously too big for this space, so I'm going to do Command T again. Hold the Shift key down and reduce this down. Please make sure to always hold the Shift key down when you do that so that it will always reduce the size proportionately. Then I'm going to double click this text in here so that it sets that in place. Even though it's bold, you still really can't see it too well. So I'm going to go over here to my layer menu, layer palette, and double click over here on the right hand side past where the words are. And it'll bring up this layer style box. I'm going to click on drop shadow and watch what happens over here when I click on drop shadow. It added a little drop shadow off to the right. I can actually move that by just clicking on it over here and dragging it around. Or maybe not. Oh, I know why. I still have it up here. Select drop shadow down here. Now I can move it around. So you can move this around. You can make it fuzzy by making the spread larger. I just made it a little bit larger here. When I go to the size on the fuzziness over there, watch what happens now. Makes it a lot more fuzzy. And what that does is it causes it to sort of jump off the page a little bit. So what I want you to do is play around a little bit with this. You can add texture by clicking this texture button. Notice how it added a bumpy pattern? If I click on the texture area, there's a bunch of different textures that you can add. And there's other ways to manipulate all of these things, but for the time being, just play around a little bit with it. I think I'm going to cancel this because I don't really want a texture on it. Or else, actually, let me turn this off. And turn this off. The bevel and emboss is going to put a little white line up here. Watch what happens again. So it just defines it a little bit better. And you can change different things on the embossing by playing around with these sliders. It's going to change radically the way it looks. I kind of like it a little bit softer, so I'm going to reduce it back down. Then I'm just save this by doing Command S. I've already saved it one time. Since I know the size of these, I can resave this one with these sizes by saving it JPEG. Do File, Save As. Change it from Photoshop to JPEG. This is header 1, and it's saving it on the desktop. Now it's still in layers, so this isn't the actual JPEG. This is still the PSD file. So I'm going to go File, Open, go to the desktop, get the header that's the JPEG, and open it. Notice how this is all one layer. I'm going to select everything on the screen and copy it. Command A, Command C, and I'm going to close this one and go to my second one and paste it in here. And then I'm just going to recenter it. This is the quickest way to get all three of your headlines done at the same time in the same way. So I'm going to save that one. This is a Photoshop file. I'm going to go to this menu over here and flatten it. Then I'm going to do File, Save As. And change this one to my header number 2. If you notice when I clicked on it, it changed the name up here. Rather than having to type all this information again, I'm just going to change this to 2. Everything else is the same. I'm going to change this to 2. And then instead of PNG, I'm going to save this as a JPEG. And again, save it on the desktop. And save. For my last one, I'm going to do the same procedure. I've already got that image copied, so I'm just going to paste it in here. Move it up so that the name is in the center. flatten the image by going to the options menu over here and selecting flatten image. File, save as. Notice what it's named, and it's a .png, so I'm going to change the .png to a .jpeg. I'm going to click on the desktop where my other files are, and this is header number 3, so I'm going to click on 3, or excuse me, I'm going to click on the number 2 here, change this to 3, and change this to 3, and save it, and click OK. Then I'm just going to quit all of this by doing Command Q, and then upload these images to this assignment. So I'm going to go down, this is the Make It Your Own. Click on Add down here, this paperclip. Files. And then since they're on the desktop, I can see them over here. I'm going to put this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. I'm just going to drag them right into here. Click Upload. Then scroll down. Turn in the assignment. And turn in the assignment. The other way that I could have done that, because I'm going to save all of these site graphics, I'm going to take all of my artwork from the desktop and drag it into here. This is how I'm backing it up. Remember to always back up everything that you think you might need later. So I've got the background that I downloaded. I've got all of my Photoshop file, the original one, and the other ones are JPEGs, the 1, 2, and 3. These are what you're going to put in your Google site. But that will be for another lesson. Remember, the last thing that you do every day is you delete everything that you've downloaded. So I've selected all of these things. I'm going to hold the Command key down and tap the Delete key. That puts everything in the trash. Then I'm going to click on the Downloads folder and select all of these and Command Delete those as well. Then I'm going to click on the blue area over here on the desktop, hit Command N for New Window, and I don't see where it is on here. I just want to empty the trash. So let's open up the trash down here and empty it. The reason we do this is to save our work, but also to not let other people use our work. So we've deleted everything from the Downloads folder and everything from the desktop. So in the next lesson, I'll show you how to add that information to your Google site. A lot of you have already put things in your Google sites, so it won't be anything new to you. Make sure to always log out of your Google Drive. You don't want to have any of this information open so that people can come in and mess with your stuff. If you leave this window open and logged in, someone can delete all of your work. They can go into your Google Drive and delete everything from your Google Drive, and that would be a mess. So make sure to always sign out of everything and then quit Google Chrome, and then you can log off the system.